Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Camille Carter had never cared for the spotlight. While her husband, Jason Carter, was doing podcast interviews, schmoozing with investors, and soaking in the glamour of their now famous fashion brand Carver, Camille stayed behind the scenes, designing pieces, sourcing fabric, overseeing production, and pulling all-nighters with a hot glue gun and caffeine-laced tea. To the public, Jason was the visionary. To the company, Camille was invisible. And to Jason, once the company hit $30 million in valuation, she was expendable. But that wasn't how it started. Camille met Jason when they were both 22, broke, and in love with impossible dreams. He was charismatic, full of bold ideas and reckless ambition. She was grounded, artistic, and endlessly resourceful. Their first design, an asymmetrical patchwork jacket made from thrifted jeans and dyed canvas, was sewn in their tiny kitchen, with Camille guiding the fabric under her old Singer while Jason filmed a time-lapse for Instagram. Got 1,200 likes. A boutique in Atlanta placed a trial order. The rush was electric. They named the brand Carver, a mix of their names, Carter and Verité, Camille's old art school alias. Camille insisted on subtle designs and ethical labor sourcing. Jason wanted flash. They balanced each other. In the beginning, that friction created magic. In year 2, Camille gave up her full-time job. In year 3, she sold her grandmother's antique ring to buy better machines. In year 4, Jason proposed on a beach in Tulum, and they said their vows barefoot, whispering promises no one else heard. They were building something real. Together, weren't they? The first red flag was so subtle Camille almost missed it. At the launch party for their spring collection, held in a sleek rooftop venue in Manhattan, complete with signature cocktails and towering floral installations, a reporter from Style Mag asked Jason who his design inspirations were. He grinned for the cameras. Honestly, I just follow my instincts. I've always had a good eye for silhouette and structure. Guess it's in the blood. Camille stood beside him, champagne glass in hand, lips frozen in a polite smile. He didn't even look at her. First, she laughed it off. Jason was just caught up in the moment. Interviews were nerve-wracking. Maybe he forgot. Maybe. The second red flag slapped her harder. A brand article titled "The Man Behind Carver" featured photos of Jason alone, modeling pieces Camille had designed. No mention of her. No credit. Not even a quote. Camille called him out. "Why didn't you tell them we're co-founders?" Jason didn't even look up from his phone. "It's just branding, Cam. People want a face. Story. It's not personal." Not personal. But the next 6 months blurred into work, meetings, and a creeping sense of isolation. Camille pulled back from the day-to-day. Not because she wanted to, but because she wasn't being included. Jason started hiring without consulting her. Their weekly design meetings got cancelled. His new assistant, a bright-eyed 20-something named Lena, started calling the shots Camille used to make. One night, Camille went to upload her sketches to their shared company drive, only to find her access had been revoked. She confronted Jason again. "It must be a glitch," he said, not meeting her eyes. "I'll fix it." He never did. Instead, he brought home a stack of NDAs and said the company's lawyers wanted all original contributors to sign confidentiality agreements. Camille scanned the document. Buried in legalese was a clause waiving any future claims to ownership or intellectual property. She didn't sign. 2 weeks later, she found out she'd been removed from the company's updated founding documents. Her name was nowhere. Not on the website. Not on the branding. Not on the LLC. Just Jason Carter, founder and CEO. And a mysterious creative director, listed only as Lena M. Their marriage collapsed like a brittle paper swan. Jason came home late, stopped wearing his wedding ring, and never mentioned the nights he spent in LA with investors. Camille didn't ask. She knew. A woman knows. One night she sat him down. "I want to talk about the business. About my role. About what I'm owed." Jason looked at her with the weariness of a man annoyed, not guilty. You didn't build this company, Camille. You helped, sure. But that doesn't make you a founder. You didn't handle the finances, the pitches, the scaling. I did that. She stared at him in disbelief. Are you serious? I'm being honest, he said, eyes cold. You were never officially part of the company. That was the moment something inside Camille shattered and reformed. You're right, she said quietly, standing. I was never officially part of it. Then she walked into their shared home office, opened her filing cabinet, and pulled out a weathered manila folder. Inside were sketches, prototypes, supplier contracts, and something Jason had forgotten. A copy of the original pitch deck they had sent to their first investor. It was titled, Carver, a fashion brand by Camille and Jason Carter. Camille spent the next month rebuilding what Jason thought he had destroyed. She dug into old emails, backup, Dropbox archives. She found video clips, credit card receipts, and shipment invoices in her name. She called their first supplier. He remembered her. Still had a copy of the initial invoice with her signature. She called a lawyer. Not a family lawyer. Corporate one. And as it turned out, Jason had made a critical mistake. The company was originally registered as a partnership LLC, with Camille listed as 50% owner. That structure had never been officially dissolved. All Jason had done was rebrand and amend documents moving forward. But the original contract, still binding. Jason served Camille with divorce papers on a Thursday. On Friday, her lawyer filed a motion to freeze the company's assets. Jason laughed. You think a judge is going to take you seriously? I am Carver. Camille didn't flinch. On the day of their hearing, Jason strutted in with his new girlfriend, Lena, on his arm. Camille wore a navy suit. No makeup, no jewelry, just a flash drive in her hand. The judge asked for opening remarks. Jason's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client is the sole founder and owner of Carver. The opposing party has no documented claim to the business or its assets. Camille stood next. I'd like to submit evidence, she said calmly, to prove co-ownership, and to raise the issue of intellectual property theft. The judge raised an eyebrow. Proceed. She plugged in the drive. Photos, emails, signed supplier contracts, investor decks with her name, time-stamped video clips showing her designing the earliest pieces. Then silence. Then, the judge leaned back. Well, Mr. Carter, it appears we'll need to revisit your definition of sole founder. Jason's jaw clenched. But Camille wasn't done. She pulled out a printed screenshot of the brand's early Instagram post, the one with the caption, We made it, Camille and I. Our first official collection. His words. Public. Timestamp. Archive. There it was. The truth. Jason didn't say a word as they exited the courtroom. Lena clung to his arm, visibly rattled. Camille didn't look back. She didn't need to. Back in her car, she exhaled for the first time in what felt like days. Her phone vibrated, her lawyer. We're in, he said. The judge granted discovery. We're getting full access to Carver's financials, communications, and formation history. Camille felt a pulse of something fierce and unfamiliar. It wasn't vengeance. It wasn't even triumph. It was clarity. For years, she'd been gaslit into thinking her role was minor, that her designs were just cute ideas, her instincts irrelevant. Jason had spun the narrative so convincingly that she'd almost bought it herself. Not anymore. By the end of the week, her legal team had thousands of documents, emails, board meeting notes, and internal memos from Carver. Jason's attempts to restructure the business as a solo corporation had been rushed and sloppy. Even worse, he'd used some of Camille's sketches post-split, updating the colorways and pretending they were Lena's. Camille had the originals. She opened her sketchbook, the real one, not the pretty leather-bound mock-up she used for meetings. Inside were raw pencil drawings, fabric swatches, notes scribbled in margins, timestamps on every page. She flipped to a sketch she remembered vividly, a cropped denim kimono with folded seams. Jason had rebranded it as The Phoenix jacket had been their bestseller. It had also been hers. Camille scanned every page, every sketch, every note. Then she documented the file metadata and had it all notarized. Her lawyer told her to pace herself. This would take months. She didn't care. Every document she unearthed was another piece of herself reclaimed. Jason, meanwhile, began to squirm. In interviews, he remained smug. But the press had caught wind of the lawsuit, and murmurs were circulating. Articles began popping up. Who really founded Carver? The ghost designer. Camille Carter's quiet genius. Jason Carter's brand-facing IP scandal. Jason called her late one night, voice low and tired. "We don't have to drag this out," he said. "Let's settle. I'll give you a payout. Generous. We can end this cleanly." She didn't yell, didn't cry. "You deleted me, Jason," he sighed. "Camille. From the website. From the contracts. From the narrative. You tried to erase me." A long silence. Then quietly, "You weren't supposed to fight back." She hung up. The next morning, Camille walked into a co-working studio on the Lower East Side and signed a lease for a private space. Not a design house, not yet. Just a place to think, to build, to begin again. She brought her sewing machine, her laptop, her notebooks. And she brought freedom. Jason thought she wanted revenge. He still didn't understand. This wasn't about hurting him. It was about restoring herself. As discovery continued, Camille's team uncovered something stunning. Buried in a folder of old investor materials was a PDF from Carver's earliest pitch deck. It contained Camille's email signature as creative director, her bio, and even a scanned image of their first shared bank account routing info. More importantly, it had a list of design concept codes. Camille matched them one by one to her physical sketchbooks. Every hit piece the company had produced in its first 3 years could be traced back to her. The signatures were consistent, the patterns identical. It was indisputable. Her lawyer smiled as he slid the file across the table. "They're going to fold." Jason didn't fold. He doubled down. At the next hearing, his lawyers claimed Camille had created the sketches as a gift, that she had always known her contributions were informal, that she had been a supportive spouse, not a business partner. Camille didn't speak. She let her lawyer do it for her. But the look she gave Jason across the courtroom, quiet, steady, cold, said everything. After the hearing, she was followed by a reporter. "Camille, did you expect him to fight back this hard?" She paused for a moment. Then, "Jason always fights when the story isn't his anymore." The clip went viral. So did the hashtags. Hashtag deleted partner. Hashtag Carver scandal. Hashtag found her. Women flooded social media, sharing their own stories of being erased, undervalued, written out of the credits. It wasn't just Camille's fight now. It was every woman's fight who had ever been silenced in the background of a man's success. Jason tried damage control. He posted a black and white video, all sincerity and stubble, apologizing for the confusion and vowing to make space for women's voices. It backfired spectacularly. Camille stayed silent. Let the court speak for her. And then it happened. During the final weeks of discovery, Camille's lawyer received a thumb drive in an unmarked envelope. Inside, a video recording from a former Carver intern. It was a screen recording from Jason's office, Lena's voice in the background, asking if they should credit Camille in the rebrand documents. Jason's reply: "She's out. It's easier to just scrub her name now. She won't fight it, she never does." Then laughter. Camille watched the clip once. Just once. The final hearing came in spring. The courtroom was packed. Jason wore his usual confidence like cologne. Thick, suffocating, performative. The judge reviewed the documents, the sketches, the partnership agreement, the video, and then delivered the decision. Camille Carter was ruled co-founder and equal owner of Carver. She was entitled to 50% of the company's past and future earnings, including retroactive compensation, design royalties, and legal fees. Jason turned pale. But that wasn't the final twist. Camille stood and addressed the court. I'd like to propose an option for full separation. I'm willing to sell my shares. Under one condition. The room hushed. Jason looked hopeful. Fine. How much? Camille turned to the judge. I want to sell them to Carver's competitor. Sir, they've already made me an offer. Jason's mouth opened, closed, opened again. The judge raised an eyebrow. Is this confirmed? Camille's lawyer handed over the signed letter of intent. Jason nearly choked. Voxware was Carver's most aggressive rival. Their takeover would tank Carver's market value and leave Jason reporting to Camille's buyer. He tried to object, but the judge overruled him. Camille had every legal right to sell. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Camille, is it true you're selling Carver? She smiled, not bitterly but with real peace. I'm not interested in fighting for scraps of something that should have been ours. I'm building something new. What will you call it? One asked. Camille paused. Verité, she said softly. It means truth. And with that she walked away. Past Jason, past the cameras, past the life that tried to erase her. But now, her name would never be deleted again. Months passed. Camille moved into her new studio full-time, this time not just as a designer, but as the founder, CEO, and sole creative lead of Verité. No more backrooms. No more shared credit. No more silent sacrifices. The first collection was deliberately small. 5 pieces. Each one named after a stage she remembered well. Sketch, scrap, erase, reclaim, and rise. They were bold and architectural, full of unexpected seams and inverted pleats. Intentional design choices that spoke of rebuilding from the inside out. Critics loved it. Buyers from high-end boutiques lined up. But it wasn't the press coverage or the profit that made Camille feel whole. It was the quiet messages from women all over the world. I see you. You're telling my story. Thank you for not staying silent. One of those messages came from a name she hadn't heard in a long time. Marla Lynn, the original assistant Jason had fired right before Lena came in. The message was short. I have something you might want to see. You were never wrong. Curious. Camille agreed to meet her in a coffee shop near Midtown. Marla looked older, wiser, but her eyes still carried that spark. She slid a file folder across the table. I couldn't do anything back then. I was scared. But I saved these. Inside were printed Slack conversations from the early days of Carver. Internal team chats, meeting notes, all showing Camille's creative direction, her feedback, her leadership. And more damning, a string of messages between Jason and the legal team, talking about cleaning up the founding narrative before their first major investor pitch. One line in particular stood out. We'll just call her my wife. It's cleaner. No one questions a loyal spouse. Camille sat back. She wasn't shocked, but she was done being silent. She handed the folder to her legal team. Within days, they submitted it to the arbitration board overseeing Jason's remaining appeals. Not only did it kill his last attempt to overturn the court's decision, it opened up the possibility of a defamation countersuit. Jason's legal costs skyrocketed. Investors began pulling out of Carver. And when Voxware officially took over Camille's shares, their board demanded major leadership changes. Jason was given 2 options: step down or be removed. He chose the former. Quietly, without fanfare, Lena left soon after. Rumor had it she signed a strict NDA and moved out of state. Camille didn't follow the news anymore. She didn't need to. She had work to do. One evening, in the middle of organizing fabric rolls, she found an old voice memo on her phone. A recording from years ago. Back when she and Jason had stayed up all night planning the brand's identity. His voice filled the room. Cam, I couldn't do this without you. You're the heart, the soul. I'm just the face. She didn't delete it. She also didn't replay it. It was just there. Memory. Nothing more. Verité's second collection launched in the fall. Sold out in 48 hours. Fashion blogs called her the Quiet Storm. A visionary reborn. and a designer who turned betrayal into blueprint. She never responded to the praise. She didn't need to. Her name was enough. One morning, as she walked into her studio, her assistant handed her a padded envelope. No return address. Inside was a note. "I should have fought for us. But you fought for you. And that makes you more than I ever was." No signature. Just a small silver key. Camille recognized it instantly. The storage locker. Jason's old unit, the one they used to keep samples, fabric, discarded prototypes. She hadn't thought about it in years. On impulse she went. The key still fit. Inside, stacked neatly in one corner, were 2 garment bags. Labeled Camille. Originals. She unzipped them. Her first handmade jacket, the one made from thrift store denim, still perfectly preserved. And next to it, a sketch framed in glass. The very first drawing they'd ever made together. Camille stared at it for a long time. Then quietly she smiled. Not because it was sentimental, but because it reminded her. She had always been the beginning. He just didn't see it. But now the whole world did. She picked up the jacket and walked out into the sun. And with every step, the weight of what had been stolen became lighter. She didn't need justice anymore. She had truth. And she was wearing it like armor. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.